Today we are going to be making lasagna, and today is actually one of my recipes. Believe it or not, I do have a lot of recipes. One thing I want you guys to keep in mind today is that this recipe is flexible, so feel free to modify it how you see fit. And this is not going to be like Jamie's recipe. We're not going to be adding English mustard to this, and we're not going to be adding any lemon to it, and no bloody nuts as well. But in any case, hey, Vincenzo, I'm giving you some content today. We're making an Italian recipe, so I'd like you to review it. Let me know what you think. There's nothing quite like making an Italian dish with Spanish ingredients. Today we're going to be making this delicious lasagna, but we are going to be using Spanish olive oil. And if I'm not mistaken, this olive oil actually won the 2019 World Championship for olive oils in the world, so it's actually quite a good olive oil. And of course, the red wine that we're going to be using today is from La Rioja, which, if you don't know, this is one of the regions in Spain which is extremely famous for wines. Today we're going to be making more of a Bolognese type of lasagna with the minced meat. There are other types of lasagna that we will make in the future as well, but today we're going to be doing this one. And the minced meat is half beef, half pork. You can do all beef, you can do all pork if you want, but if you do half, it enhances the flavor, it really does. And if you want to make this recipe even more delicious, you can add a little bit of pancetta to this. Yeah, that would also be quite tasty. One important thing to keep in mind though with making lasagna is the ingredients, or the quality of the ingredients. So we do have Mozzarella di Bufula, actual Mozzarella di Bufula from Italy, and this brand from Mercadona is actually pretty good. If you get good mozzarella, if you get good parmigiano reggiano as well, fresh basil and some other ingredients that are high quality, as well as the mincemeat, this is important, and of course the tomato sauce. So today we had to get just this. It enhances the flavors, and that, in the end result, will make an even tastier lasagna. And this is true for all other recipes as well. As far as the pasta sheets, if you have fresh, it's much easier. These are instant, and well, we're gonna see how they turn out because I didn't have much of a choice unless I made it myself, and I'm not gonna make it myself today because it's a bit of a laborious process making your own pasta. You can do it at home, but it's going to take a few extra hours, and if you're going to make a production, it's good, but if you just want to make something like quick and easy, you best buy it. First, we're going to prep the sofrito. Now, the sofrito, an Italian sofrito, is the same as mirepoix in France, yeah? Onions, carrots, and celery. These are the aromatics, and if you haven't tried celery before, celery, especially when it's fresh and when you break it open, it's very pungent. So you don't want to use too much of this because otherwise it's going to overpower the dish. But these are the aromatic vegetables that enhance flavor. So this is the base, the foundation. And in Mediterranean cuisine, the sofrito, or as well as in France with the mirepoix, is very important. Also, one little chefy thing is to have like a little trash can next to you. So, you know, instead of taking this and then going over to the trash, you just dump everything here. It makes life a lot easier. We're going to be cutting everything bernoise, which means very, very, very small dice. And if you guys want like a video on how to cut bernoise dice or nothing like this, I made a video that I can leave a link down below for you guys to learn how to use your knife a little better. And if you have any little long pieces in here like that, it's okay as long as you cut it thinly. You can go through this again, like so, yeah, just to chop it up. Now for the celery, this isn't really important, but if you want to take off the extra fibers, you can take a paring knife such as this, and you can just peel the fibers back. It's not a must, but it's optional if you want to do this. If your pieces of celery are a little big, then just go through them with the knife a few times to make them smaller. Now when peeling a carrot, you can go this way if it's easier for you, yeah, up and down and turn slowly. Or you can hold it like you would a potato in your hand and go from top to bottom. Some people also go from bottom to top because this you can go both ways, but I do it top to bottom. And slice or peel the whole thing. And of course, if you have mulch, if you have a garden, you can use this for scrap, which is great. So that way you don't throw it out. If you have a mandolin, it helps. Also, if you have one with like a little bernoise setting, These little blades make your life easy. And if it comes with a protector, it's even better. More or less, you want the size of the carrots, onions, and celery, more or less this size, very small. Also, the reason why we cut the mirepoix so small is so it cooks faster, and when we make this sauce, basically the ingredients will just disappear. If you have larger pieces and you want to see them, that's fine, but if you don't want to see like big pieces of onion, celery, and carrots, cut them small. Today I'm going to show you a few little chef secrets as well. So, anytime that you get any fresh herbs, basil, rosemary, thyme, tarragon, if you can find it, chervil, anything like this. If you take a paper towel, wrap them up, dampen the paper towel, they'll actually last a lot longer in the fridge, several more days than they would otherwise, because I got these about 4 days ago and the state of the basil is still quite fresh. Also, if you take a little basil shoot like this and actually put it in a glass of water, after a few days, you'll start to notice roots. So if you want to grow some basil at home, you don't have to go to the nursery, just go to this grocery store, get a couple of these, stick them in a glass of water, and you'll have some basil growing at home. Now we're gonna cook. Once the pan's hot, olive oil goes in. Throw in the leaves. Okay, once you start to see ripples and it's slightly smoking, time to put the mincemeat in. We want to brown this off, so keep it on high heat. We'll add a little bit of salt. You want a super hot pan, and you want to keep that heat high enough because otherwise it won't brown. So if you hear sizzling, which you still hear, this is good because it's sauteing, no? You're searing it. You want this color. And that's the color that you want. And once you get, you start to see that it's starting to stick like this, where you have nice brown, that brown flavor, this is what you want. All right, so leave it on high or medium, depending on your burner. Some burners cook a little faster than others, as well as a pan, and let it get that nice color. You want to get it nice and brown. One thing that you want to make sure is that you do not burn all of this on the bottom. It's very important not to burn this, because this is all the flavor. So if you have a nice spatula, such as this, you can scrape it off, yeah? All the fond. More oil. Lots more oil. Once the pan's hot, yeah, keep in mind we don't want to burn this. Veggies go in. And if there's not enough oil, add a little more. So, whenever we're cooking anything, it's very important to season every element of the dish. You don't want to over season it, meaning with salt or pepper or anything like this, but you do want to season it. We can season it at the end. However, if we're seasoning it while we're cooking, it helps to enhance the flavor even more. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add the meat back in. And if you have a little too much fat with the meat, then you need to separate a little bit of it because we don't want too much fat. Give this a good mix. And now we're going to add the wine. So what we're going to do is the wine is going to deglaze the pan, so it'll help release all of this fond that's at the bottom. This is important. Nothing like a bit of Spanish wine in an Italian dish. A little more. So once the wine has reduced at least by half, and as you can see here, the meat has actually absorbed the wine, we're going to add the tomato sauce in. So normally when you make Bolognese, you don't want it like super wet, the sauce. You want it more of a meaty sauce. And the consistency right now is okay. We want it a little wet. Why? Because the pasta sheets, they need to absorb extra liquid, and we don't want it to dry out in the oven. So the consistency more or less right now is pretty good. But what's going to happen? This needs to cook for a good, 30 minutes, 45 minutes or more. You want to bring it up to high heat, bring it up to a boil, drop it down to low heat, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add the top to it. Yeah, you're going to put it on low and let it cook nice and slowly, and all the flavors are going to then come together. So while the Bolognese sauce is finishing, we're going to prep these little pasta sheets. So these little pasta sheets, they're crap, but in any case, it's the only thing I could get. I have two options. One, we can either put them in as is, and we need to add a little more water and everything to the lasagna so they absorb it, or we pre-soak these for a few minutes before we actually do it. Normally when you pre-soak them, if you take them out of the water before you actually layer the pasta, they stick like a you-know-what to each other, so we need to keep them in the water. So the best thing to do this is to get another little tray, fill it with hot water, and then leave them, and then when we go to layer this, we take them out one by one. Also, when you're making the pasta, it is a good idea to actually take the pasta sheets, take the tray that you're going to be using, we're not using this one, we're using a bigger one, and count how many you think you're going to need. Because if you don't have enough, you need to make a trip to the store. I have two types of ricotta. This one's from Mercadona, this one's from Italy. One from Mercadona is like tasteless. One from Italy, a ver qué tal. That has a lot more flavor. Also, the consistency is much smoother. The one from Mercadona has like a very rough texture, if you can see this. This would be better. I'll mix the two. One egg yolk, we'll just add the yolk, not the white. We don't want this too runny. We just want this to firm up a little bit while it's cooking. So we'll use the yolk. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And there we have our mix.
Later.
Now, as you can tell, the tomato sauce has reduced, and all the flavors that we have been cooking have concentrated. When you swipe it like this, if you can see that it's dry on the bottom, which it is, it's a little firm, this is good. You may need to add a little bit of water to this, just so we have more sauce to use when we're making the lasagna. But this consistency isn't that bad. But we need just a little more sauce, so I'm gonna add a little more water. This is very subjective. You need to use your better judgment when you're making this, because it'll be different for you, on how much you're going to need to add. It depends on how hot the pan is, the cooking time, etc., etc. Now is a good time to check, to taste, to see if it needs more seasoning. That's really good. So for the Mozzarella di Bufula, since it is a fresh cheese, it can be extremely wet. And if it's a little too wet, what you may want to do is to literally cut it in half or smaller pieces and just try to dry it off a little bit, because we don't want too much water. We don't want to make this super, super, super wet. First thing, we want to add a little bit of sauce to this. You can add just a little bit of tomato sauce if you want, but since I don't have any extra, I'm gonna add a little bit of Bolognese. Just a little bit. You need to add sauce to the bottom, because otherwise it's gonna be too dry. It is a good idea to try to get these as close together as possible. Sometimes, to make these work, you have to cut them. So sauce, pasta, ricotta. And when you're making the lasagna, take your time. Keep in mind, this is like layering a sandwich. You want to take your time and think about how you're gonna layer it. And when layering it, I'm gonna be adding flavor, basil, fresh basil. Rip it up, add a few pieces here and there. You can add a little bit of parmigiano as well, parmigiano. And I'm gonna add a little bit of mozzarella. Not too much, I'm just gonna add a little bit. This just adds to the goodness because this type of mozzarella, since it's Bufalo mozzarella and it's from Italy, it has a lot of flavor in it. And mozzarella is a good melting cheese. So if you want that gooiness when you go into cutting it, be sure to add a lot. I'm gonna put the ricotta in the middle. Now, since we did add egg to the ricotta, not much. It is gonna puff up a little bit. Today we're gonna be doing 4 layers. You can do 3, minimally, at least 3. This is why you need to make extra, because if you have this little gap here, you need to cut. That little piece. Rest of the bolognese on top. All right, so once you have everything on top, we're gonna add a little more basil to this. I love basil, as you can tell. Now you can add the basil at the end stage when making the bolognese, but I prefer to add it like this. You also have the leaves, you can see it, it's fresh, you can distribute it more evenly as well. Just make sure that you cover it with cheese because otherwise it will dry out in the oven. We're not going to be putting a bechamel on this, so we are going to be adding extra cheese to this, so we have that color. And to prevent the cheese from burning before the lasagna is actually done, all we need to do is heat this up to a certain temperature where the cheese inside melts and to where everything, all the flavors combine. We need to cover this so the cheese on top doesn't burn before that happens. And then at the end, we can raise the temperature in the oven higher, put it on broil, and then get a nice golden brown color with the cheese. All right, now we're gonna put this in the oven for about 45 minutes to an hour.
Eventually.
I'm gonna let this cool down for a few minutes because it's still a little too hot. And you do want to check it because we added egg to this to make sure that it gets to at least 165 Fahrenheit, yeah? You want to make sure that you put the thermometer directly in the center. It looks good. If you want to put more cheese on it, put more. That way you can get, more of a nice browning on top. Also, if you do use a bechamel, you will get a nicer color on top than what we have here. Taste test time, eh? That is delicious, eh? The thing is though about this is that when you leave this for like a day or so, the pasta absorbs more of that flavor. So when you eat this the second day, it's even better. All right, so a few little things to keep in mind when making this recipe. The quality of the ingredients will enhance it even more. The thing that I would like to actually improve with this recipe is next time maybe using actual good tomatoes instead of the stuff that we have. But, in any case, it is what it is. Let me know down below, guys, if you tried this recipe and how you like it. Also, more importantly, Vincenzo, rate my recipe. Let me know what you think, Vincenzo. Did I do a good job today? What would you change? Would you make it a little differently? I did use a few Spanish ingredients as well, so it's not 100% Italian. We did use wine from La Rioja, we didn't use Italian, and well, the olive oil is also Spanish, it's not Italian as well. So in any case, let me know what you guys think down below, and be sure to check out this next recipe coming up here on this next video, and I will see you guys again very soon. Until then, take care.